All right, you ready to dive into some Bitcoin predictions?
Always up for a good chart deep dive. Let's do it.
Well, today we're dissecting this Cointelegraph article. It's making some pretty bold claims. $85,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year.
Yes. I saw that. Pretty bullish. But they do bring up this weekly RSI breakout thing.
RSI sounds like something straight out of Star Trek, if you ask me, but I guess that's why you're the expert. What is this RSI thing, anyway?
Right, so the RSI dot it stands for Relative Strength Index. It's basically a way to measure how quickly and how much Bitcoin's price is changing.
So it's not about the actual price itself, but more about the momentum.
Exactly. Think of it like, are we speeding up? Are we slowing down?
Or are we about to slam on the brakes?
Or are we going to hit the gas and blast off, right?
Mhm.
That's what the RSI helps us figure out.
And in this case, the article's saying the RSI is hinting that Bitcoin could be gearing up for a major breakout.
That's one interpretation for sure. They're seeing some historical patterns that line up with this weekly RSI breakout, which is why they're throwing out that $85,000 figure.
$85,000. Man, I remember back in 2017 when everyone and their grandma was calling for a massive bull run, and then, well, we know how that story goes.
Yeah, you always got to be careful with predictions. In the crypto world, it's a wild ride, and anything can happen.
That's for sure. But I'm curious to hear more about this weekly RSI breakout and why this Cointelegraph article thinks it's such a big deal this time around.
Well, they make some interesting points, but like with anything in crypto, there's always more to the story. One thing this article does well is, it doesn't just present one side of the story. It actually brings in some other voices, other perspectives.
Oh, I like that.
Like they quote this trader skew, and he's focused on a totally different number, like $61,000.
$61,000. Okay, so quite a ways off from 85. Why is he so hung up on that number?
Well, he sees that $61,000 as like a line in the sand. Like if Bitcoin can break through that and stay above it, that to him is a much stronger signal.
Like a real signal that things are changing, not just
Not just a blip.
a little bump in the road.
Exactly. He's looking for that sustained momentum above $61,000.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got this weekly RSI breakout thing, then we've got this key price level of $61,000. It sounds like even the pros are a little torn on what's going to happen.
Well, and that's what's so interesting about this whole thing,
Yeah.
Analyzing markets. It's not an exact science.
Yeah.
But that's why I think it's so important for people to learn how to kind of read those signals for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not enough to just follow what one person says. You really got to understand what's driving it. What's the why behind it?
Be your own detective, basically.
Exactly. And, this Cointelegraph article, it does offer some more clues to consider here. Like, remember how we were talking of historical patterns earlier? Well, September. Historically, a pretty important month for Bitcoin.
Really? What is it about September?
Well, they call it a bellwether month, right?
Oh.
So how Bitcoin performs in September can kind of give you a hint of what to expect for the rest of the year.
Interesting. So is it looking good so far? Are we on track for what would you call it, a green September?
Well, let's see. We're recording this on September 21st, and so far it's been a very volatile month. Lots of ups and downs.
Bouncing all over the place.
Exactly. So it's too close to call at this point.
Edge of our seats. But, okay, say September doesn't end up, in the green. Does that mean all hope is lost for Bitcoin?
Not necessarily. This is where it gets even more interesting, right?
Okay.
So the article, it points out that while a green September is usually a good sign, there have been years where Bitcoin still had a killer last quarter, even after a not-so-great September. They specifically mentioned 2017, 2020.
So there's still hope for a year-end rally, even if things don't go perfectly according to plan.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about crypto, right?
Always keeps you guessing.
Exactly. But it's not just about trying to predict the next big price swing. It's about, arming yourself with knowledge.
Right. So you can make smart decisions, not emotional ones.
Exactly. Because we've all been there. That FOMO starts kicking in.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
But that's why you got to ground yourself in the fundamentals. Understand what drives Bitcoin's price, how to read the market signals, and maybe most importantly, don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Very true.
Because no matter what the predictions say, crypto, it's going to do what it does.
It's going to crypto. While we're talking about these Bitcoin predictions, it makes you wonder, what about all the other crypto out there?
The billion-dollar question.
Right. Like if Bitcoin really takes off, will it bring the rest of the market along for the ride?
Well, it's interesting. Historically, a lot of times, when Bitcoin goes up, it's like this rising tide that lifts all the other crypto boats.
And I'm guessing it's not always that simple.
Not anymore. The crypto landscape is way more complex than it used to be. We've seen times lately where some of those altcoins, the ones that aren't Bitcoin, they've actually kind of done their own thing, you
They
know.
haven't followed Bitcoin's lead.
Yeah, they've decoupled a bit.
Mhm.
There's so many other factors now that can move these markets.
Like what? What kind of factors?
Well, for one, you've got the whole DeFi space exploding.
DeFi, right.
Then you've got NFTs. And more, you see big institutions dipping their toes into certain altcoins, even if they're not ready to go all in on Bitcoin. So, yeah, it's gotten complicated.
So trying to predict how all this is going to play out is what, like a fool's errand?
Well, I wouldn't say that. But it's definitely not as simple as it used to be.
Definitely keeps things interesting. But, okay, I think the big takeaway here is even with these bullish predictions for Bitcoin, we got to stay on our toes, right?
Absolutely. This is a dynamic space. Things change quickly.
Mm.
But that's part of what makes it so exciting.
Well said. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. RSI, historical patterns, and even a little crystal ball gazing into the future of crypto.
Hey, we got to keep things interesting, right?
Always. But on that note, I think we'll leave you with this. Think about it. What happens if Bitcoin really does hit $85,000? Or even blows past it? What kind of world are we going to be living in then?
Now, there's a question to ponder.
Until next time, happy hodling, everybody.